Welcome back to Noir Alley. I'm your host, Eddie Muller. In our usual trips through noir terrain, we get the scenic tour of rain-slick streets and shadowy saloons, like this one, Bar 355 in Oakland, California. Not today, however. Today, we're headed to a hot and dusty ghost town outside Las Vegas, a place that's been completely abandoned, with good reason. It sits within the 680 square mile section of desert that was the Nevada test site, where from 1951 to 1962, a company called National Security Technologies, under contract to the United States government, conducted above-ground tests of nuclear weapons. Writer Irving Wallace, who'd been banging out stories since he was 15, had a penchant for weaving fictional plots out of current events. And in 1951, he and colleague Chester Erskine sold RKO a crime yarn with a topical twist. They took that old standby, The Petrified Forest, and dropped it in the middle of the Nevada nuclear test site. The film would eventually reach theaters in 1953 as Split Second, and that's the movie we have for you now. It was the first of many Cold War-era films to find diverting entertainment in the threat of nuclear annihilation. This one's a straight-up hostage drama. The weapon of mass destruction merely provides a race-against-time backdrop for the smaller-scale human aggressions on display. It would be the sci-fi genre that fully exploited Eisenhower America's fear of nuclear war, filling movie screens with all sorts of pissed-off monsters swollen to mutant size by fallout from these megaton test explosions. Things were almost as explosive within RKO Pictures, where head honcho Howard Hughes was spending more time fending off lawsuits and hostile takeovers than making movies. After a year of delays, Split Second finally went into production in October 1952. And by then, it was the first film made under the stewardship of new studio boss Ralph Stolkin, a Chicago entrepreneur who led a syndicate of investors in wresting control of RKO away from Hughes. But when Stolkin's history of shady business deals became public, he and his cohorts were forced to resign. The Stolkin era at RKO lasted less than a month, and Split Second would be the only film produced there during his brief tenure. Compared to the financial skullduggery of Hollywood executives, the crooks in today's movie are all measly small-timers. Split Second also marked the directorial debut of actor Dick Powell. He no doubt felt some allegiance to RKO, since that's where his career was revived when he was cast against type as Philip Marlowe in the 1944 hit Murder, My Sweet. Powell went on to become a major figure in the noir movement, perfecting his wisecracking in films like Johnny O'Clock and Pitfall. He formed his own company to independently produce the crackerjack noir Cry Danger, which RKO distributed in 1951. Once he decided to add directing to his resume, Powell did the smartest thing a director can do. He hired a terrific screenwriter. The script of Split Second is by Bill Bowers, one of the most reliably entertaining movie writers of this era. Bowers had done the final drafts of both Pitfall and Cry Danger, as well as other memorable films I've shown on Noir Alley. And Powell knew that Bowers' sharp dialogue would give this picture a boost. Originally, Split Second was to feature two big stars, Victor Mature and Jane Russell. Instead, they were cast in another RKO picture set in Nevada, The Las Vegas Story. Shot on location in late 1951, less than 70 miles from the Nevada test site. Vegas casinos at that time touted that visitors could watch erupting mushroom clouds from the safety of their hotel rooms. Seriously. Back then, Nevada A-bomb tests were sold as tourist attractions. As for the actors, Powell was probably better off with an ensemble of second-tier stars. No offense to Stephen McNally, Alexis Smith, Jan Sterling, and newcomer Keith Andis, but big names like Mature and Russell, they typically lived to the fade-out. In Split Second, The suspense comes from knowing that anyone in the cast can be knocked off at any time. Clocking in at a brisk 85 minutes, it's obvious this film was not an inspiration for the recent 3-hour Oscar winner Oppenheimer. If you watch this twice in a row, Oppenheimer would still have 10 minutes to go. So let's see who survives this tense hostage situation, as well as a test run for nuclear Armageddon. I'm setting my watch. I'll see you back here in 85 minutes. I hope. Start the countdown to split second.